episode 33 of this broadcast. I'm your brother, Jack Alexander. I got a few things that we need to... Sorry for not coming back, by the way. Over the past couple of days, my mum's birthday, so I've been giving my mum some of my presents, a lot of my presents. Again, I've not really been finding it easy. I laugh because, I mean, what did you expect? When you take on the hardest job any given to any human being in the annals of history, did anybody ever think that it was going to be a walk in the park? Did anybody think that they were just going to be able to believe their way into heaven? Did anybody think that we were going to just be able to coast our way from this society into a new one without any opposition, without any pain? I don't think so. But I think sometimes I don't always deal with my pain the way I should. Sometimes I'm a little bit too emotional for my own good. And so, sometimes we got to learn how to lean on Him, the Almighty God Allah. And as good as a student as I believe that I am becoming, I do have my ups and downs, and Brother Akbar, my mind's been with him, and the minister spoke as well, and the minister's on my mind, and the nation's on my mind, and so I've not really come back for the last couple of days. Family is a great trial. The domestic life of the Honourable Elijah Muhammad was, I think, one of the most difficult sources to where his pain, was kindled, should we say. Because I think it's one thing to have the truth and people accept it, and it's another thing to have truth and people reject it, and those people that reject it being those whom you love and have loved you. And but love is a verb. Love is a doing word. And I tell you what I wrote today. I wrote something today. I'm always writing something. But I put, ask yourselves, how long is it going to take you, me, we, us, to make yours, mine, and our word bond? The one you, me, we, and us said. How long is it going to take? Now you might say until it's done, but if it's on Allah's timing, then it's when Allah sees it fit. It's not when we see it fit. So when the Holy Quran says that we must be patient, well, there's a reason for that, because sometimes we can get frustrated with the pace of things. We can get frustrated at times with the slow pace. Say if you've got a child, and he's in school or whatnot, and he's very slow to learn in the class, or he's very slow to, change something, or very slow to get something. Sometimes because the child is younger and a little less still in mind, we can, in our stillness, get frustrated with the with the process of change that we know as an older person, you know, needs to take place, must take place, and will take place. It makes it even harder if you know it will take place, beloved, and it's not taking place. So, but you know, I said, how long is it gonna take you to make sure how long long is it going to take you to make sure that your word is bond? How much time is it going to take you to look at those knowing you have made your word your bond? How long? Wait, I might have wrote that wrong. Point being is like, what I'm trying to say is, the word that you may have made bond ultimately has its time and its place. You know, when an artist is coming on stage to take the stage, that's the stage for him to take at that time. But if you just walk out while somebody else is on the stage and start performing, you know how crazy that would be. You know how arrogant you have to be to get on stage and start interrupting somebody else's performance because you can't wait for yours. You know? So sometimes, like, the point being is, the very thing we've made our word bond to is alive in itself. Truth is alive. Truth is not dead. Truth is like a living being. And sometimes we want what we want, but truth wants what it wants. Truth wants what he wants. And that includes the timing in which truth wants us to have it. So, does it depend on what the word is that you have said to yourself that you will make bond? Because, listen, to make your word bond, to make any word bond, each word that you make or strive to make bond depends on the weight of the word, the weight of the thing that you are putting into motion. If I say to you, brothers and sisters, I'm going to make my word bond, I'm going to make a new sun. I've got to be prepared not just to give my life, but I've got to then embody, I've got to stand even further back and work in a universal way so that when people come also to that work, you know, they will be extensions of my word, because they, like I would know, that it's going to take generations to make a new sun. So when we say our word is bond, sure, on the immediate level, that is true, and that is beautiful to keep your word bond. But in the universal development of things don't always have a, you know, have an immediate effect just because you have plucked up the courage to make it your bond. Make that word your bond. Make that mission your mission. And sometimes you've got to see more of yourself before you can see really what more you can bring. You've got to... You know, Master Fard Muhammad used to stand in the mirror and just look at himself. Sometimes you've got to spend so much time in the mirror before you're in a position where the mirror is as people. You know? I think that was a sign that, from Master Fard Muhammad, that we should all look at ourselves, look at self, you know. If it says, and we are closer to you than your jugular vein, then that means that, there's more than one person in the mirror when you're looking in it, Liverpool Football Club have a really beautiful quote, and it says, "You'll never walk alone." And it's true. Like, I got invited to go to like a lads MMA night and watching some MMA. I declined it. And he's like, you'll be on your own, Jack. I looked at him and I said, "No, brother, you never walk alone." Because so long as my mind is coming to him, so long as my mind is fixed on doing work, it's really true. You have to empty yourself, beloved. Your life is really full of so many things. You're full of so much potential. You're full of so many beautiful thoughts, beautiful ways of seeing things, beautiful ways of understanding things. And it really takes, or it's gonna take, maybe perhaps a lot more than you'd have thought to get that into the universal sphere of things. Sometimes you think you can carry a load up a hill until you're carrying the load up a hill. And you start looking around and you're thinking, damn, I got this load here, is anyone around? So you have to sometimes be very, very careful how much you put on yourself to carry. And take your time. The race is not to the swift, but to those who can endure. Endure what? What is it that we're enduring? Do you think it was easy for Allah, the originator of the heavens and the earth, to make himself up all in the midst of triple darkness in space? Now, you think it's dark, you think you're having a hard time, or it's a dark moment when you look around carrying a load up a hill in a world where there are others, in a reality where there are others who, could potentially come and help you with that. But imagine being in the very beginning and it is just you in triple darkness with nobody else but you. I think that's probably one of the most inspiring things and analogies that you could give to somebody in this world. Because this world, the atmosphere in it, its relationship to truth or light is likened to that very beginning moment with the originator, where he was, wrestling with the darkness. He was destroying the darkness. He was trying to get darkness to move. He wasn't trying to integrate with the darkness. He was trying to touch the darkness with his light. So, all with a word. When Farrakhan is expressing that be and it is element, you know how many reflections that has on the beginning? To say be and it is. Some men are just very unique. all men are very unique. But some men, such as the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan, has a lot of weight with God. And we'd be very blessed to recognize that, beloved. I was debating doing this video today. I feel like I needed a bit more time to get my head straight, cause it's a heavy load, brother. You know, you'd be surprised what you're made of when you accept the truth. You'll say, I didn't even know I was able to go so high. You know, we think because the ocean's so big that, you know, we can't go very far. But you'll be surprised when the ocean, you know, gets deeper and you find yourself in those deep areas. You know, it can be very overwhelming where you thought you could swim. You know, like we look at the planets and how some of it arranges itself in the heavens, and we wonder over its splendor. We wonder over its positioning. We wonder over its meaning in placement. And sometimes we're like that. We'll say a thing and say, ooh, what was that? We'll do a thing and say, ooh, what was that? And, you know, I'll tell you something. Love is universal. That's why we are so privileged, because we have not just the desire to love, we have the power to love people. Because if the human being is made in the image and the likeness of God, and we have learned that God is a man, that he's a human being, then look how much that we can create for those who are still in the womb, still in the spiritual womb, still in that triple darkness space. You know? How much can we offer to human beings from ourselves, from self? If you look at self mathematically, you're looking at God. But if you're looking at self in a very vain way, I guess there's only so much you can extract from yourself, because Allah doesn't allow the sweet and the bitter sea to cross into each other. You know, likewise, we can't sail over into new seas, you know, with a boat that's got a hole in it. You know, we gotta patch up. We gotta patch up, man. We gotta probably, you know, we gotta prepare. You know, so the race is not to the swift. It's not to those who are thinking this is just gonna be a brief moment, looking at the time all the time, looking at your wrist. What time is it? Okay. No. Brother Akbar Muhammad wasn't interested in the time. Not in that sense. He was interested in working. He was interested in doing the will of the Father at all times, in however many beautiful and creative ways that he felt like that light could touch all the dark areas, all the darkness. You know, to me, I think music has evolved into a dark place. But music isn't dark. Music is light. So, you know, brother brother Nipsey Hussle, he's somebody that understood that somebody just needed to flick a light on and not engage with and become the darkness, but rather shine and stand out as the light in the darkness. And the light shined in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. And so because the darkness couldn't comprehend it, the darkness worked to destroy it. And even though the light of his life is gone, Brother Nipsey, no, not the light of his life, the organism in which that light was emitted from, even though that has gone back to the Creator, back to the earth, his light is still very much shining, brothers. His light is still felt. His legacy is still moving. So sometimes we almost sometimes love that somebody is doing the right thing, because at least we don't have to. Somebody's on it, so it's alright. It's like, it's being like going to the party and saying, "Where's the food at?" And you're saying, "Oh no, it's okay. Got 4 brothers in the back there. They're cooking." And you could say, "Oh, brilliant. Well, I guess I'll just enjoy the party then." They're making the food. I could just enjoy being here. But it'd be a different story if you came to the party and you said, "Where's the food?" And he said, "Oh no, we don't have any food." You don't have any food at a party? And you're hungry at the party? Well, you can't really function properly, really, without the sustenance of life. Spiritual food. You can't survive without spiritual food. I guess you can, as they say, fake it till you make it, but they don't tell you what you're making. Fake it till you make what? So, you know, be patient and be grateful. Be patient and be grateful. Steadfast is a good word. Steadfast. Be steadfast. I think I was gonna finish the Labours of Jacob today, but I just think I'll speak from the Spirit today. I guess I'm speaking from some of my struggles. I guess I'm really speaking, I think I'll say instead, from the sphere of my struggles. Because we are as the earth itself. We are in a sphere of our own atmosphere. Atmosphere. So, and these are some of the things that I've got in my mind as of recent. I humbly would like to just share a couple things and just give you an update of where I'm at. You know? So chapter 33 in the Quran is the allies. And I love that word, ally, because it's everything rolled up into one, really. You know? It is everything rolled up into one. Because you have a warrior in an ally. You have a friend. You have somebody you can trust. You have somebody who will give you, just give you Because an ally is on your side, is on your team. An ally is one who's with you. So, to have an ally is to have a companion, to have a comrade, to have a special bond, to make our word bond, to make our word friend, see? To make our word trustworthy. We should be striving to make our word bond. You know, I think to myself sometimes, I made so many words to myself that, and to my Lord, and to people, you know, like, I wonder, am I ever going to be able to fulfill all my words sometimes? But again, I have to wrestle with the slow pace of things. I do one day believe that I'll make my word bond, you know, in some sense of what I'm striving to do. But, you know, like, I don't always know how to deal with myself correctly. I know what it's like to help the minister. I know what it's like to be confident about the minister. But I don't always know quite how to be confident when it comes to myself. Because myself is what I've been in this world with myself all the way. You know, like, that's why they say really your best friend is God, and your worst enemy is also the inner devil that, you know, you and I have to fight. But when you're being, you know, I guess conscious of yourself, and you've learnt things about yourself, sometimes we become attached, or those things that we've learnt about ourselves can have us to think, you know, over many a generation, just those things that we've learned, or just those things that we gather about ourselves. And sometimes we have to know how to deal with things, not just to deal with things. You may say, like, and I'm sure there is a pretty simple answer, but I think when you're going through things, when you're going through the tunnel, it's not always easy to break things down. You just keep heading for the light at the end. It's like no time to stop and explain. I can't really stop and explain because we may compromise, or not realize that there is a compromise in stopping to explain. Life is so short. Can't explain to everybody what you're doing sometimes, unless you can, you know, put it into simple words. But some things are not as simple to understand. Like some things of self are going to rise up. You know, the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Honourable Elijah Muhammad said that Islam brings out all that is within a person. All that is within a person. Or that which is within a person comes out. And when it comes out, you may not know how to deal with it. You may not. That's what I mean. That thing that comes may give rise to things that you didn't even know was there. You know? We come from a very dark, point in time, really. What we're really carrying is, it's quite hard to face sometimes, So that's why they say ignorance is bliss in this world. But what is it about ignorance that they think is so blissful? See, they don't know it to be blissful, they think it to be blissful. Really, deep down, they know it to be pain. They know ignorance to be troublesome. But they say ignorance is bliss because ignorance will stop them from doing the mighty work. So it's like you go into the gym to pick up a heavy weight, but if the gym's closed, you don't have to go to the gym, do you? Well, you can't go to the gym because it's closed. So a lot of people are wishing that the gym would be closed, and when it is, that's their peace that they didn't have to put any strain in mind. They didn't have to do anything hard. They didn't have to go to that place where weakness and strength would fight one another. Truth and falsehood. Falsehood is ever a vanishing thing. So in a period of time where it's so dark, you know how uncomfortable it would be for somebody to come on and just flick the lights on? Ding! Oh my God. See, when the lights come on, you can see everyone else, not just yourself. When the lights come on, it's not just you that you see. You can have a look around and see everybody else. And you may be disturbed to discover what you can see. To have discovered what you can see. And I think it takes a man of great strength and great grace and great faith to work even though we see what we see. Because to still work on behalf of those who are caught up in the trials of having a light turned on and also having to combat and fight off a darkness that is so tripled. It takes a graceful kind of intermediary force or source to make it through such a time, to make it through such an hour. This is why God calls himself Al-Rahman Ar-Rahim. He is the beneficent, the merciful. He's merciful. He's kind. He's giving. And he gives time. He gives so much time. And he's merciful. He's understanding. He's most knowing. See? He's most knowing. So even you haven't considered things that he has considered. The love of Allah the love of his messenger, the love of his messengers, the love of humanity, is the true route to how we will make it through any trial, any difficulty, any test, anything. The love of God. Why do you think Allah made it the first commandment to love God with all your heart, mind and soul and strength? Think over that. What came to me then is that the reason why is because if you love the very source of it all, then through loving the source, it can branch out into where you are in all areas and bring you peace. Because if you've got love, you've got it all. If you've got God as number one, even though you're in your job phase, or Job, even though you're in your Noah phase, the slander phase, even though you're in the Jesus phase, the envious phase, it's just a phase. Because Job didn't care that he lost everything. He kept his mind on the fact that he had God to love with all his heart, mind, soul and strength. Noah didn't care that the people were mocking him because he was building an ark by which he would save them. He was just grateful and wanted to be obedient to the Lord, because he loved God with all his heart, mind, soul and strength. Jesus, he could take their envy because his love of God was more powerful than their envy. His love of study was greater than their envy. His grace was greater than their oppression. Some people love being servants because they know that to serve is the greatest honour. So, at my mother's little, party or whatever, I made sure I cleaned all the table, and I always make sure I do that. She makes such nice food, but then, because there's so many plates and stuff, there's so many big bowls, and, you've got the potato bowl, you've got, the big tubs and the big bowls of vegetables and stuff. And I think, wow, it looks awesome when it gets delivered to the table. But then, after everyone's eaten, God, it looks a mess on the table. And not everybody's been eating with the mouth closed. Not everybody's been, tidy at their end of the table or in their area of the table. And so I made sure that things were all clean afterwards. Because if someone's going to stand there all day on their own day and make you food to eat to sustain your life, the least you could do, brothers and sisters, is help clean up. Help, in any way that is good, Again, to serve. Love is a verb. And I think I do wonder if things. I wonder. Oh, it's 444 as well. I wonder, did Elijah Muhammad ever feel inadequate in his journey towards as being one with the Father? Did Farrakhan? Did Farrakhan ever feel like? Did Farrakhan ever feel like? You know, say if there's a murder on the loose, yeah, and someone was to like, you know, say you murdered him, you say that wasn't me. If it wasn't you, obviously, you know, you say that wasn't me. That's not me. I've not murdered the person. I've not done that. But, you know, imagine if someone does that in an opposite kind of way. Imagine if someone comes to you and says, you're such and such a person. You're a great person. You know, you're... Nobody is your equal. Imagine how you would have to wrestle with that. Imagine the inadequacies that you would create for yourself. In somebody else giving you some words, some knowledge about yourself. And sometimes some of the titles that get put on us in this world, the title's so heavy that the movement gradually gets slower and slower. So it's almost like it's like a camel riding through the desert with no load. And then each day you put more on and more on and more on. And then, you know, the camel thinks, yo, this is too heavy. I can't move now. I can't even move. So sometimes titles work like that. That's why we should always stay with the essence of what the title is always trying to remind us of. See? Because you get too focused on the title and not the reason for things as in a universal perspective. Because you have to wrestle with being at the center of yourself without being self-centered. That's not an easy job, beloved. Because that's to accept all that you are whilst understanding that you will never be all that he is. He being Allah, God. I said all that he is. I didn't say you can't be some. I didn't say you can't be a reflection. I didn't say you can't be as he is. But not as he is. It says there's none. The Quran says there's none like him. None. Nothing can be compared unto Allah. So the wise thing to always do, I find, well, it's not always the wisest thing, because sometimes you might lose time doing this, but it's always good to just keep doing the work. Keep doing the work, because, you know, fall in love with the word. Fall in love with the work, not the reward and the titles which the work grants you and gains you. Because anything that the word will grant you in the physical, you'll just have to pass that on to another person. And same with the spiritual. The spiritual, Allah is the only reality. You know, I think it's really beautiful that we're living in a time where the most favoured human being, the most extraordinary human being, the most powerful human being is among us. I think we're very, very lucky to have such a one in our lives. Even if we don't see it, even if we don't see him, even if we don't understand, that doesn't take away the fact that his interfering in the affairs of human beings is taking place. And it hits a whole lot different when you really do see that he is intervening rather. Also interfering, but intervening in our affairs. Because now you're not just feeling something, you're now knowing. So I know that he's intervening in our affairs. But there was a time where I was thinking about it. I was just feeling that there was something taking place. But life hits a whole lot differently when you know it's happening. Because, you know, to be in life with no answers is to still be dead in some respect, beloved. Because, look, if I say, right, we're going to have a running race, and I say, go, you know what people are going to say to me? I mean, you'll get them ones that just start running. But you'll get the wise ones that say, where are we going? Where are we starting from? Where's the finish line? You know, see what I mean? Like, if I tell you to go a place, but I don't tell you where you're going, if you got a brain, if you got like, if you've hit it right, you won't move. In a way, because not everything has been made, or not everything has been disclosed to you. Not everything has been, you know, made apparent for you to do that. So sometimes, like, you know, the wise look for God in things, in people, in scenarios. Always look for God's hand in it. God's hand is in everything. And the more, like, happy and what's the word? Pleased we are to see God in things. You know, I think the less disappointed we will be in this world. I say we, but I don't really understand why people get disappointed with seeing God in men and women. I don't understand that. And And maybe to some degree, things look like what they're not. So maybe you could see something and you think it's not God in, or that God's hand is not in it or on it. But if you understand God's way of doing things, how he makes negative things positive, how he makes positive things negative, how he brings the living out of the dead and the dead out of the living, you learn to allow God to sing the song, not to sing it yourself. Because God is the ultimate master of his divine clock. God is time. So I hope these are very humbling thoughts, because we're in a world where people think that they can be adverse to God without there being any consequences, or without there being any type of repercussions or any immediate or short-term or long-term effects to that. Especially in the time when he is here. See? He is here. He's not around at this point. We're not waiting for the Messiah. We're not waiting for the Mahdi. We are in the presence of the Messiah and the Mahdi. We're in the time of God's coming. We're in the time of these things being made visible. You know, we're coming out of Jahiliyyah, ignorance, into a more knowledgeable, aware type of world. You know, Allah is not mocked. Allah will not be mocked. The nation of Islam will not be mocked. Those who are striving for the master of the nation will not be mocked. You know, I love Brother Jabril Muhammad. And I love that he's a writer. And I wrote something today. And it says, I am that brother that's going to make an entire universe of people to know and to appreciate the power, the effect, the lasting effect, and the lasting impact of a rightly guided, rightly motivated, rightly placed, rightly timed, rightly inspired, rightly loved word. Because if there's something that I know Brother Jabril knew, it's that he knew the importance of words. He knew that things had to be taken care of in the realm of explanation, explaining. You know how much a child wants to know? Just because he's a child? Like, a child will just ask you things. Just, child ain't too proud to ask a question. You know, child don't even know that he's in the very essence while asking the question. And that's why children are so valuable. Because children know where it's at. Praise be to Allah. Children know that they don't know. And that's why they do a lot of thinking, you know. Children will think sometimes before asking a question. Because it's like that Quranic verse where it says, you know, the angels are like those who believe, they're in awe of their Lord. Like they're just in awe. And so look, when you're in awe, just think about it. You're just thinking in the awe of it. You may not even have the answer. You may not even have access to the answer. You may not even be ready for the answer. But the awe is like a something that's you're just as appreciative for. You know, just to have the awe of it to live in. That's why sometimes one of the most powerful things, one of the most powerful realities is that the powerful question can sustain you just as much as the powerful answer. Because the question is so universal. The question covers such a span that regardless of whether Allah reveals the answer to such a question, the very question, the very pondering over it is enough to, you know, keep you in a state of peace, in a state of wonder, in a state of study, in a state of awe. See? Praise be to Allah. I wanted to see what that word awe means. So, it says here, awe is a mixed emotion of profound respect, wonder, and sometimes fear, triggered by encountering something vast, powerful, or sublime, such as natural wonders, genius, or profound beauty. It implies feeling small in the presence of something greater, often causing admiration or stunned silence. And sometimes that's that overwhelming element to awe. It just leaves you completely available to learn, ready to learn, or will have you in the right space of mind, you know, as a student, as a true student, because to be a true student is to be a true observer of truth. See, to be a true observer of truth and to be an observer of truth, maybe that's two different things, beloved. A lot of people observe the truth, but they don't observe it truly. That's why Jesus used to say, truly, truly, before anything, before a lot of things. Because he was trying to say, this is at the core. Well, truly, truly, it's like, yeah, it's the center point of it. It's the reality of it, not the unreality of it. Truly, truly, he was trying to put an importance over the trueness of something. so that if its trueness is understood, then we can build from there. See? Truth is our foundation. If falsehood is our foundation, then we can't build on it. We can't build from it. So Jesus would say, truly, truly. So be in awe of the Holy Quran. I've seen people that, I've spoke with individuals that say, oh yeah, I've read the Quran, yeah, I've read that, yeah, I've read that. I say, you've read it? I didn't hear understand it. I heard that you read it, brother. Did you understand it? I don't think nobody's understood that book. Everyone is in need of Allah's grace with that book, to be honest. So I always, I listen to how quickly people shove past something due to its heaviness. So some people say, I've read that book, as though they don't need to read it again. Oh, I've read that, I don't need that anymore. I've done that, I completed it, mate. And some people don't realise that that book is a reflection of the heart that it came from. Or the heart of the heart that it came from. Praise be to Allah. It's like sending a message through hearts. The hearts keep the message alive. Because just when one goes out, another heart ignites. And that truth is alive again in that heart. And, the Holy Quran is something that we have to understand the source of it. See, people are so tied up over the name Muhammad, but don't understand that Muhammad was a man who was in submission to God, who was chosen by God to do a work. And so people, not just back then, but people in this time will avoid the God that chose him, or they'll avoid the reality of his anointing, and go through the work as though its source and its vessel in which it came through is not one and the same. I didn't even pray because I'm talking so much already. Apologies. I usually do make prayer at the start of this. I do apologise. I can't find it now. Where's that gone? In the name of Allah, the entirely beneficent, the entirely merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of all the worlds. Sovereign of the day of recompense, it is you, Allah, whom we serve, and it is you, Allah, whom we ask for help. Guide us, Allah, to the straight path, the path of those upon whom you have bestowed favour, not of those who have evoked your anger, nor those who are astray. I want to thank the entire nation of Islam for being, as it is, our teaching source during this dark hour, and I would like to thank my mother, who raised me and made sacrifices for me that I am learning of and yet will never comprehend the depth of. Praises be to Allah. And I can say that I am of myself nothing, and I can do of myself nothing. Only He it is, Allah, that can guide one's heart, one's mind, one's soul, one's strength, one's essence, to become an instrument of His understanding, and to become a reminder and a reflection of His love, light, and presence. Praises be to Allah. And you know, what I found to be very, very uncomforting as a student is that when you're studying and you've reached a point in your study that you are like exalted in the world, or people make a kind of meal over you in a way, is to always like, well, I don't like that. That's why I don't like putting myself in a sphere, and in that sphere already is a bunch of idolatry. It's a bunch of idol worshipping, people worshipping folks. Because, you know, sometimes there's a reason why. There's a reason why, just period. But sometimes there's a reason why things don't sit right with you. And I always feel like as a student, we are all one. Or as students, we are all one. My work is not really my work. You know, it's our work. So if I have a piece of your work and you just so happen to stumble upon it in me, you know, that's your duty as much as it is mine. And likewise, if I find, you know, our work or the work in you, it's my duty to engage with that. It's my duty to take that as part of the entire thing. You know, it's very interesting that we take things and leave things when we take some things into consideration. We take certain things into consideration, and then we take certain things into no consideration. But Allah considers all things. Allah doesn't Allah likes to create challenges for us. Allah likes to test us. He doesn't like to test us because He wants to hurt us. He wants to test how much of what we say we love. Do you know? Is that me saying, oh, I love making food to give to people. Well, you might just get an opportunity to go and make a load of food and give it to the homeless. But if you was to reject such an opportunity, you can't really say that you would love or do love to do that. Because it's like turning off or turning away from the opportunity to do that. Do you get what I mean? Yeah. I always sit in front of a mirror when I'm speaking to you, you know. And I'm not looking in it at the minute. Something that I believe I've picked up in my life is that I always put others before myself. It's one of the best, worst things that I believe that I do. Because the world doesn't need a me that puts others first. I'm in a world that needs me to put me first. And we learn. I was going to say, we learn the hard way. It's true sometimes. You know. But imagine what could be made from learning the hard way. You know. As in for the whole. You know, there are some people that suffer in a rightly guided way, and with a rightly guided idea, or with a rightly guided attitude. And you know, I would like to think I'm one of those people that suffers in a very interesting way. I just know something about love. Love is giving. Love is giving. Love is... Love is finding, love is giving, love is searching, love is generous, love is kind, love is thinking, love is knowing, love is faith, love is trust, love is honesty, love is patience. Love is so many things. Love is suffering. In this world, because it's so dark, you know, it's hard not to be in a state where you're struggling, or that there's an element of suffering. Because if you're really, really here, like, here is not easy to be, is it? Or is it? See, I always try to humble myself with the years that I've been studying, what others have studied and been studying and been working in for many more years than me. And so sometimes I have to think, I've not even made it past 20 years in this type of work, you know. So I have to always remember that, you know, it takes time. We have to be careful for what our heart's purpose. I just read that then. Because And you know, this is the reason why the minister is so influential. It's because of what his heart purpose is. What his intention is so beautiful that he's unlimited. Because he just wants for his brother what he has for himself. Because he knows that the light would shine brighter if there was two of them than one. Wouldn't it? And it's alright. You may have to wrestle. I don't know why, but you'd have to wrestle with the fact that you can't have the minister's light. You don't need to wrestle with that. Be grateful for it. But he wants us all to know that we can reflect him. I said to somebody the other day, I was saying, nobody in this world compares to the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I said, if there's something I know of myself, I'm a good judge of character. I can see hearts. I'm good at seeing hearts. I'm good at seeing motivations. I'm good at seeing the real essence of a person. Or I've always just, again, I'm not always, but I like that about myself, that I notice talent, I notice light, you see. I understand when God is speaking, but I was telling him that the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he is an unmatched human being in this earth. Nobody can do what he has done. Like, from all the musicians, all the leaders, all the politicians, all of the historians, all everyone, there's only one man in this world that is at his level, and that is him. That is himself. And so I said to my brother, I said, we might as well aim for the star. Because even if we miss, look where we're gonna be. We're gonna be up there. Do you know what I'm saying? That's what I said to him. I said, listen, imagine trying to aim to be like the minister. Imagine trying to aim to be as the minister is, but in yourself. Yeah, you're not going to get to that place exactly, because there is none like him. There's none like the minister. There's nobody that's got that job but the minister. Nobody's going to walk in his shoes. They're shoes that were made for him to walk in. But look, if we creatively make our own shoes to match his as best we can, see, if we aim for the star, then, if we've aimed for the star, if we've based it on his efforts, we'll be able to produce work that is alike to his works. Greater things shall you do. I always think about that. I'm like, greater things. I don't think there's anything. You know what I mean. Because I was saying that, you know how far that we can get in this world if we speak well. Even by listening to the minister, you'll learn to speak well. I remember at the beginning of my journey with the minister, he would say things and explain things in a way where your whole words or choice of words change because you've listened to him. So, for instance, I never used to say that which such and such and such. But when I started to listen to the minister, I'll be speaking and I'll use that phrase to explain something. So I'll say, like, I don't know, such and such and such because of that which was in the beginning. So he that's what I mean. We should pattern after him, patterning our lives after him, patterning our attitude, patterning our work load, our work rate after such a one. We pattern it after him. Again, look, you see how you're at the source, you're at the center, but you can't be self-centered, but you can still be at the center of self. It's a difficult balance, you know. It really can be, you know, brother, sister. Because you want to be seen, not in that way, but you want to be, you want to be loved. That's it. That's it. That's it. You want to be loved. And that's why, you know, God is enough for a lot of people. And it's all that those people have. And that's why it's enough. Because God loves. And they've probably felt more love from God than a lot of people. The love of God. The love of God. To have the love of God. They say, for the love of God. They say, for the love of God. They don't always say it in the best manner. But always watch out for what people say, you know. Always watch out for the root of where things have come from. Because this world is smarter than you think. It's not as dumb as you think. Triple darkness is not a dumb place. Triple darkness is a deep place, beloved. Triple darkness is a very, very extraordinary place, beloved. A lot going on in triple darkness. There's a lot going on in growth. There's a lot going on in electricity. There's a lot going on in light. There's a lot going on. Because it's like, at any moment, beloved, God can just fire up one of the electrons. God can just fire something up, man. Initiate something. God can just initiate something that you don't know you need. So we're living in a world where we have to anticipate being on the alert at all times for God to show up. And also Satan. So we've got to be watchful for Satan to keep ourselves safe. But we have to keep our watch for God in order to keep ourselves informed. That's why when a minister speaks, people sit up, people quiet down, people are on the alert now. Why? Because they know God's talking. So we've got to be on the alert at all times. It would have been really, I mean, only Allah really knows. Only Allah can really know or have like a way to show us how prophets of the past were like respected or treated or looked upon. You know, like on a seeing it face to face. Like imagine seeing the way that those Roman soldiers were looking at Jesus. I bet there was a Roman soldier that was like, I bet there was a bunch of Roman soldiers, and a bunch of Romans was like, look at this idiot here speaking this crap. Come on, let's go down to the Roman baths. Come on, are you coming, Maximus? And I bet you like Maximus went. I bet you there was one soldier that was like, yeah, I'll catch you down there. I'll be down there in a minute. I'm just gonna listen to this. I'm just gonna listen to this brother for a bit longer. You know, or this. He probably weren't allowed to say that, was he? You know, he probably had to disguise his love for his brother in the wickedness of his enemy. Look at that. So his enemy was the soldiers that were just inviting him to the baths, and his brother was the one that was teaching. How interesting is that? But what I'm saying is somebody's got. Well, I mean, it'd be beautiful to see if, like, you know, there's a few tapes that we could watch. I don't know, somehow, some way, where somebody took footage back in the day, you know, of some of these worlds that were destroyed and stuff. You know. Allah likes to keep a record of things, so that's why you have the recording angels. That's something that was mentioned about Akbar that I really loved. Is that he was given like the title, the recording angel, and I really love that about I love it when I get a little look. Let me see, Minister Abdul Akbar Muhammad, a recording angel. Remembering the international representative of the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the nation of Islam, and a faithful companion, servant, father, brother, and scholar. But the recording angel. Something about words, bro. Something about how words, or like, you know, something to do with words is the very reason why the moon is out there. You see how the word is a great thing. Words are a very powerful thing, beloved. Words are like rocks. Words are like mountains. Words are like water. Words are like food. Words are like the essence of God itself. In the beginning was the Word. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was God and was with God. The Word. So that scientist that blew the moon from the Earth, causing the Earth not to be 35,000 square miles in circumference, but 25 or just under 25,000 square miles in circumference. You know, that must have been the word, the reason for it breaking was connected to the reality of, the Honourable Elijah Muhammad said, the dialect. But dialect is, again, we're still talking about, we're still talking about words. We're still talking about the word. Something is connected to the word. And then all the water fell from that part of the planet onto this part. And that's why this planet is 70% water and 30% earth or land. So people like Jabril Muhammad, people like Akbar Muhammad, Minister Abdul Akbar Muhammad, Tainetta Muhammad, Mother Tainetta Muhammad, noticed that they had a relationship with the very word or words of God. Words did something to the heart. Words were like the eternal. Praise be to Allah. Because he says, even if the ocean were as ink, and the trees were as pens, you could never exhaust the words of your Lord. Oh Allah. Ya Allah. I really didn't want to do this episode today. I'll be so honest. I wasn't feeling too up for it. Sometimes I don't like being among or being accessible when I'm not feeling up to it. Or I'm not... See, feeling is not the right word, I guess. Not in the right frame of mind. That's the better way to say it. Because what damage could you do to somebody when you're not in the right frame of mind? See? and then likewise, what element of healing could you give to someone in the right frame of mind? Sometimes I'll start these lectures not in the best frame of mind, but knowing that I have to make my word bond. Like the person who's going to the gym has to make their word bond. They have to go. They have to go there. They just have to do it. And so I had to do it today. But I think I'm in a I'm in a relatively better mindset than I was when I began this. Because I'm in the Word, I like being in the Word of God. I like being in the sphere of God. I don't like it, I love it. I like thinking on things, and all humans are made to connect with other humans. But when you've been taught by such a man, and the world don't know that man, it can be really hard to connect on the level you want to connect on sometimes. You know? I try to keep things as universal as I can without going too personal or too, like, talking too much of myself. I do try with that. You know how simple things can be brought about that are of good? Do you know how quickly God can turn the table? Do you know how quickly God can bless his servant? You know how quickly change can be made with a bit of faith and a bit of sacrifice? No, I'm talking a bit of sacrifice, but I'm talking a lot of sacrifice that you, in the right attitude, will only think is a bit. You know, someone's gonna say, "Oh, go on, sacrifice one of them cookies, bro. I'll have one of them cookies. Will you sacrifice one of them cookies for me?" You say, "Oh, well, I didn't want to, but here you go. Go on then. Look, what if the person goes, here, have the whole packet." That's a greater sacrifice, but look how peaceful he is in making the greater sacrifice. Some people think they've sacrificed it by giving just one thing. So even when you gave the one thing, you're still stuck in a way in disappointment. But when you give it all, when you're willing to give it all, there's a state of peace that comes with that. Knowing that you're prepared to give your life, knowing that you're prepared to work through the problems and go over and work through and study the solutions. It's alright, because the blessing was serving. The blessing was being given a guide, being given a way, being led to a door. Mm. You know, the Nation of Islam and its followers, they have a way of leaving a mark on you. For those that perhaps may be listening who are not familiar with the Nation of Islam, people in the Nation of Islam, people who love the minister, the messenger, and the master, they're not they're not like anyone you've known. And I'm not just like a friend bigging up, you know, a friend. It's not like that. It's really mathematics. Like, the light of the sun, you can't really compare that to any light on the earth, can you? Praise be to Allah. You can't though, can you? You may find me a creative lamp or something that, I don't know, like a lava lamp, that's quite interesting. I'll give it that. But it's not like the sun in everything that the sun does. Does the lava lamp give, does the lava lamp have billions of minerals and vitamins and nutrients of which to feed our bodies to sustain them? No. So even though it looks beautiful and wonderful, it's nothing like the sun. And so the Nation of Islam and their spiritual capacity, which really there isn't one in the nation. There is no limit to what we can achieve. There is no ceiling for us. We can just ascend, if it be Allah's will. By His permission, He will allow us to spiritually understand things and spiritually see things, because understanding is like a harmony of the senses. See, I sometimes listen to people and I can hear the Honourable Elijah Muhammad. I don't know whether you or anybody who might be listening has ever experienced this, but it's almost as though the messenger's voice is heard. I could just hear him. I don't know any other way to say it than that. I can hear him speaking to me through them. Sometimes in the very way that the messenger spoke. I want you to when the messenger speaks like that. Sometimes people start talking, I'm like, I heard something in you then. I heard someone talking then. They're usually clueless. Maybe they're not. But sometimes I hear that and I'm like, well, that was interesting. We didn't even read the Quran, did we? Right. Should we do... So it's chapter 33. A 3 and a 3. A 3. And the messenger did say something about the 3, brother. I tell you what, I could... Speaking of the 3, should we hit the 3 in my writing? I did a study on this. I was in this let me find it. Yeah, I was in this like study of the number 3 at one time. And I was thinking about all the things in scripture that says or brings about like a 3. One sec, sorry, I'm trying to look for it as I'm trying to speak. Right, so I put, let me see. I see these heavenly bodies, sun, moon and stars, as a complete trifecta of 3. I find it very interesting that Elijah Muhammad, if I am correct, made a real significance about the number 3. And it's almost as though he did things and said things in 3s, such as blind, deaf and dumb, freedom, justice and equality, knowledge, wisdom, understanding, sun, moon and stars, Fard Muhammad, Elijah Muhammad, Louis Farrakhan. Triple darkness. 2/3 of the Quran was for him, and 1/3 was some other fella. The three most hated men: Moses, Jesus, Muhammad. The truth, the way, the life. Mehdi, Messiah, son of man. 66 trillion years since deportation of the moon. So 33 times 2 equals 66. And we're on chapter 33 as well. The Prophet Muhammad's statement of 3 generations after me. The 3 different degrees of goodness. Jesus' 3 phases of darkness. The 3 hard years, the 3rd year of the 3 being the hardest. The fruit of Islam, 3 words. The word of God containing life, light, and power. I am the Alpha, the Omega, who is, who was, and who is to come. The perfect tense, past, present, and future. 300 plus years of servitude, slavery in America. I think that's like under a certain degree of the servitude, because I'm pretty sure it's 400. The 313 soldiers at Badr, 2 3s and a 1. Farrakhan said the Honourable Elijah Muhammad said that the message that Master Fard Muhammad gave him contains 3 elements: life, light, and power. Yeah, he said that. Moses, his companion, and the wise man. 3 lessons on patience. 3 times he could not be patient. Yeah, literally. Peter denied knowing Jesus 3 times, thrice. Jibril Muhammad departed this life in July, the 7th month, on the 16th. 6 plus 1 is 7. In 2023, 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 3 plus 7 plus 3 equals 7. So it's 777. See? Yeah. So Noah's Ark had 3 levels to it. Jonah was in the belly of the great fish for 3 days and 3 nights. God told Joshua to be courageous 3 times. 3 times Jesus resurrected people. Jesus also rebuilt the temple in 3 days. Jesus was in a tomb for 3 days. 1 plus 4 plus 4 equals 9. 9 divided by 3 is 3. 33 vertebrae in the spine at birth. The 3 wise men, bringing gold, frankincense, and myrrh, as they say. 3 men that did not see death. Enoch, Elijah, Melchizedek. Leader, teacher, and guide. See, he said that in 3s. Moses asked God who he was. He said, I am, which is 3 letters. Even the famous equation pi is shown as 3.14159, and so on, giving its weight, or at least a great importance, on the 3.14 in the equation. I was curious. I was just about to say it as well. I was going to say it then. Should we go and have a look what it is in the Quran? But I'm already writing it. You ready? I was curious to know what 3:14 was in the Quran. And it says, the enjoyment of worldly desires, women, children, treasures of gold and silver, fine horses, cattle, and fertile land has been made appealing to people. These are the pleasures of this world's life, but with Allah is the finest destination. I think this verse is a timely message, I thought, as well. Chapter 3 in the Quran is Al-Imran. Interestingly, this surah takes its name from ayah 33. Does it? I didn't know that. It is not an accident that in this chapter it covers the great confusion around Jesus, whom they say was 33. But he was actually 35 according to the master. And then in Gematria, the words that add up to 33: teacher, Genesis, renewal, the elect, awareness, wake-up call. Scriptures, Jeremiah 33:3, Job 33:3, Deuteronomy 33:3, Proverbs 3:33, Psalm 33:3, Revelation 14:3. So, I don't know why I went on to this, but something about that 3 anyway. Just something about that 3. Alright. Well, I've spent a lot of time just like speaking from spirit and just really trying to open my heart and try my best to speak about things that I guess are difficult for me at some points. Especially knowing what, like, what is about to take place. And, you know, I'm just a brother, you know. I'm just a brother. I'm not an uncle. I'm not a... I'm not a granddad. I'm not a father. I'm just a brother at this moment in time. You know. I think over like how much Allah values me. It inspires both hope and fear. Because I know that I'm really nothing if it wasn't for him. You know. I have no friend besides Allah. Imagine being hated because you love Allah. Imagine being hated because you're devoted to God. Imagine you being hated because you give people a mirror of their hatred or their discombobulation at truth. Imagine being rejected and despised because you can take no for an answer and will give no for an answer. Alright, well, let's just get on with the Quran. We're just going to do section 1, I think. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. O Prophet, keep thy duty to Allah, and obey not the disbelievers and the hypocrites. Surely Allah is ever knowing, wise, and follow that which is revealed to thee from thy Lord. Surely Allah is ever aware of what you do, and trust in Allah, and Allah is enough as having charge of affairs. Allah has not made for any man two hearts within him, nor has he made your wives, whom you desert by zihar, your mothers, nor has he made those whom you assert to be your sons, your sons. These are the words of your mouths, and Allah speaks the truth and He shows the way. Call them by the names of their fathers. This is more equitable with Allah. But if you know not their fathers, then they are your brethren in faith and your friends. And there is no blame on you in that wherein you make a mistake, but you are answerable for that which your hearts purpose. And Allah is ever forgiving, merciful. The Prophet is closer to the faithful than their own selves, and his wives are as their mothers, and the possessors of relationship are closer one to another in the ordinance of Allah than other believers. And those who fled their homes accept that you do some good to your friends. This is written in the book. And when we took a covenant from the prophets and from thee, and from Noah, and Abraham, and Moses, and Jesus, son of Mary, and we took from them a solemn covenant, so that he may question the truthful of their truth, he has prepared for the disbelievers a painful chastisement. I love two verses that really, I think, speak really, really loudly to us in this time. Is verse 4 in that. It says, Allah has not made for any man two hearts within him. You know, the scripture also speaks of double-mindedness, which I think has that relevance. Reverence as well. I think I got them two words combined then. Reverence, relevance. Because I think we all I think we all with our hearts want something, but we all with our hearts also want something else. Not out of want, but just out of just being human. Like you want the favor of Allah, you want the grace of Allah, but sometimes you want things in the world, and you want things that, you know, Allah wouldn't approve of, wouldn't want you to want or have. So that's why Allah is saying there, like, you know, Allah's not made for any man two hearts within him. You know, you can't want. Sometimes when we operate like that, we're trying to please everyone, you know, you end up with nothing, because you've basically partitioned two wants instead of crushing them into one sole want, in a way, if that makes sense. Like, when if someone's to come up to you and say, what's your heart's desire? Or, in fact, let's change the words. What's your ultimate heart's desire? See how I had to change that, actually? Yeah, that's a proof. Because you might say, your ultimate heart's desire is to be, you know, present with Allah in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, to be forgiven by him, to be accepted by him, to be found of those striving. But then if you was to say, well, what's your heart's desire? You might say, oh, well, I just want my own place, and I want You know, I want some new clothes, and I want a new car, and I want, you know. But sometimes, like, you can sometimes find out a lot of things by what you don't want, you know. You can find out things a lot by what you don't like. You can find out what you like through what you don't like sometimes. That's why they call it working backwards. You know, it's problem solving. Some people start from ground up, but some people start from up to the ground. And I guess Allah knows how best a person will learn in a way that their learning will universally benefit. Allah looks at the bigger picture. Sometimes the way somebody learns, or how somebody has got to a point in their stage of learning, tells us more, gives us more about what there is to learn than what they learned when they got to the end of it. Praise be to Allah. So Allah's not made a man to have two hearts. That's why Jesus says, what did Jesus say now? That's it. A servant can't have like two masters, because he'll hate one and love the other. Praise be to Allah. You can't have two masters. You can't have fellowship with disbelievers. You can't have fellowship with unbelievers and hypocrites and still love God. And still, you know what I'm saying? So a lot of people might think sometimes I'm like a little bit harsh, or I'm like a little bit strict, firm. But that firmness is not without reason. Like, I would say I'm, I was gonna say deeply devoted, but I'm deadly devoted. And that's why some people are just not fond of the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because he represents the grace of God, but he also represents the danger of if you play with God. Do you get what I mean? He represents like the ferociousness of God. He represents the sternness of a father. He represents the passion of a father, the discipline of a father, the willingness to chastise that a father can give. But really, the danger is not really on those levels. The deadliness of a servant of God is through God's hand on him, and through his hand on God. Because, no prophet was no prophet was made a liar. No messenger was made a liar, ever. See? So even though they may have, I don't know, assassinated messengers and killed messengers and killed the prophets and scorned the prophets, you know what they could never do? They could never tell the prophets that they were lying. I mean, they couldn't say it and prove it. They probably said it all right, but they could never prove what they were saying, because God always had his hand on his man. And, you know, when they called him a liar, or if they ever did try to prove that he was lying, God would always anoint that man with words to disprove those claims and to fight against him. Fight those who fight with you. But argue with them in the best manner. So you can be arguing with someone, really you're fighting with them. But if you're arguing with them in the best manner, what's the best manner, innit? If I can have a physical fight with you, but I'm fighting in the best way, I'm not really gonna lose, am I? So this is I think we're going to end it, to be fair. I've spoke for a while. I don't know how long I've been speaking, but I'm pretty sure I've been speaking for a while now. But I just wanted to give some words from Spirit today. And if you could just be patient with me when I don't, you know, do what you would like me to do. or what you want me to do. I'm focused on what Allah wants me to do. I'm trying to figure out what Allah wants me to do. And how he wants me to do it. I've got to wait for two things. Look, if I said get on the starting line, I said we're going to have a race, why will you start running if nobody's told you where you're racing to? Well, race to all that is good. Race to all that is good. Like I said the other week or the other day, I'm not racing against you. I'm racing against me yesterday. You know who I do love? I really love Kevin Gates. I don't know whether you know him or like you've heard of him, but there's an element of his energy that's very, very familiar to me. There's a couple of people on this planet that just stand out, you know. They stand out, and they've learned to shine. They don't just shine on their own. They've had to learn to shine. Takes time, you know, to learn how to give your light. How to see your light. How to see your own light. You know, sometimes we have a way of... You know, I was telling this to my friend, to my brother. I said, we're all like, it's like everybody in the world is imploding and then trying to engage with each other. But I said, but if we were exploding and engaging with each other, that's what we want to be on. You know, because I think conversations would be so much better if we were exploding, if we were embracing each other and embracing our explosion of of colour, of mind, than imploding. You know, and imploding is like reminds me of a black hole. It's like things are being, it's imploding in on itself. It's, you know, human beings are not designed to do that, you know. They're not designed to implode. They're not designed to fold in on themselves. They're not designed like that, brother and sister. It's and so know that we wrestle with high things. We wrestle with a harsh reality when everybody's imploding, and yet still trying to connect, still trying to stay explosive. That means that some folks are imploding but they look like they're exploding, and some people are exploding but really they're imploding. And so that's why Allah loves those who are patient. Because if you just wait, you know. See, people walk out because they want to get to the destination. People start racing straight away to the finish line. But what they don't know is they've got to go through storms, really harsh weather, and terrible circumstances. But if you were to just wait, Allah will give you a sunny run, you know, in some sense of the word, in some sense of what that means. I'd rather wait, me. I'd rather wait. But I'm in the how I'm waiting is not the best way. That's it for me. I don't mind waiting, but sometimes I get weak, and it's how I wait that I always fall in a bit of trouble with. But be patient for all the things that God gives to you. Be sure to make a note of them. Be sure to, in this time, be vigilant for God. Be on the lookout. As you say, keep your eyes peeled. Wonder what that means. Peeled. I'd have to peel my eyes. Peeled. Do you know what I mean? We're in a world where it's like people are saying things but they don't know what they're saying. But if you know what time it is, then you'll know what they're saying. So, praises be to Allah. Alright, well, beloved, it's been a little bit of a different episode. I'm usually a little bit more energetic. And it's 18:18. So maybe it is a little bit of a sign. And Let us be happy when we see God in our brothers and sisters, in our babes, you know? The babes, yo. The babes, yo. Something about that cave, yo. Something about that cave, you know. Something about that cave, bro. Chapter 18 is a very interesting chapter in the Quran. Something about that chapter. How many chapters does that have? Sorry, not chapters. How many verses? Interested to know. It's the one with Moses and the wise man, isn't it, as well? Yeah, it's 110. 110. Which I believe is the help. So it says, say, I am only a mortal like you. It is revealed to me that your God is one God. So whoever hopes to meet his Lord, he should do good deeds and join no one in the service of his Lord. So what's the 100? I'm pretty sure the 110th chapter is the help. Where is it? Yeah. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. When Allah's help and victory comes, and thou seest men entering the religion of Allah in companies, celebrate the praise of thy Lord, and ask his protection. Surely he is ever returning to mercy. That's 3 verses, beloved. 3. And there's 3. So 110 is like 3 figures. 3. I will say integers, but I don't know how much 0 is an integer. I don't think an integer means a whole number. But I don't think 0 is a number. It's a figure, I think. I don't know. I'm not good at maths. I'm not very good at maths. So he says, celebrate the praise of thy Lord and ask his protection. Surely he is ever returning to mercy. Returning. To return. To return something. Praise be to Allah. Jeez. Well, praises be to Allah. I might read a little bit more of that chapter. In fact, you know what? There was another thing that I was going to mention that I didn't mention. I said there was 2 verses in that Quran, in the 33, that were interesting. And it said, the Prophet is closer to the faithful than their own selves. The Prophet is closer to the faithful than their own selves. And his wives are as their mothers. So, it says, the Prophet was indeed much more than a father to the believers. He had raised them to the dignity of manhood from a state of savagery. Consequently, the tie of love which united them to him was stronger than the ordinary ties of love and friendship. The statement that his wives are their mothers has reference to the spiritual relationship, because they were helpful in bringing up the faithful spiritually. And it's really interesting because we say Mother Khadija, Mother Tainetta, because, you know, this is why, oh Allah, oh Allah, God knows, man, God knows, man. God knows that this spiritual thing is not, it's not no plaything, yo. Like, the spiritual element of things is so powerful, so important, so vast, so vast. So vast. I think it's a sign of the universe itself. It's still expanding, it says. And it says, and we are its expander. Praise be to Allah. I mean, imagine having the power to expand the universe. You know what I mean? Like, this is what I'm saying, awe. When you're in awe of it, you're just like, Ya Allah. Alright, well, beloved, it's been another episode of The Universal. Me as your brother, Jack Alexander. And I pray that you follow your heart. I pray that you follow your innermost reality to the best that you can. And be steadfast and be patient. While you do that, as you do that, if you do that. So I'm just reading a message. Alright, well, I would say like, comment and subscribe, but you ain't gonna do any of them. And quite frankly, I don't care if you do or don't. If you like this video, Allah will knows if you like it. You know, if you wanted to comment and didn't, Allah will know if you didn't comment it. And if you want to subscribe but didn't, Allah will know if you did or didn't, you know. So that's why I love Allah being the best knower, you know, because whatever it is that people are on, you know, Allah don't move, he don't change, he changes not, scripture says. So I just put my faith in him that he'll give me the right perspective on things if I'm indeed worthy of that, worthy to know of the right perspective of things, or worthy to be of those or among those that do know or have that perspective, insight into things. Allah knows if I've offered and given or summoned or deposited anything of value within a person. Allah is the best knower of if people have, the right intention towards me and towards us in the nation. And if people don't, then get prepared for a whooping. I like people that test the waters, though, sometimes. Because sometimes they're the true warriors, the ones that'll look in your face and say the strangest things in the strangest ways. But if you just stay calm, you'll just be like, it's alright, bro. I understand how you're protecting yourself. Really, I understand how people fish. But Allah is most knowing. Allah is most knowing of those who are keeping up, those who are watching, those who are listening for faults, and those who are listening for the spirit and the love. He said he'd go up a mountain 40 miles just to teach one of the lost founds. So, if he would go to that extensive height, 40 miles, beloved, that's a long way up, yo. 40 miles? Come on, brother. For one? $40 miles for one. We see a world full of all those ones. Don't know if I'm in the mood for doing a song today. Yeah, I'm not really in the mood today. I just like to keep myself to myself sometimes. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So even if it's just one person, even if it's just 3, even if it's 2 people, I'm making that 40-mile journey just for that person then. I'll leave that. Yeah, I'll leave that. I think I will. Appreciate the follow, brother. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. Alright, beloved. I'm gonna go because I'm talking again. Assalamu alaikum. And I love you. Peace be upon you.